The new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook Wild Game Recipes for the Grill, Smoker, Campfire, and Camp Stove is out on April 24th and is available for pre-order now. Here is your book for everything that's best cooked or eaten outside, from grilling to open fire cooking to Dutch ovens to smokers to barbecue to backpacking meals to how to pull off the perfect fish fry, with pit stops along the way for lessons about Ice Age cooking methods and the best 5 ways to construct a cooking fire you can be proud of. And of course, we're focusing on wild game and fish here with over 100 recipes, including stuffed venison burgers 3 ways, wild duck with ahi verde sauce, a jerky made with cola, a gin and tonic made with fire-charred lemons, and grilled frog legs made with a sticky sweet sauce. This ain't your normal cookbook, so be prepared to be surprised. Pre-order your copy now. For more info, visit themeateater.com.
Hey, what's up, my woods people? I'm Tyler Jones, and this is the Backcountry mini-series from the Element Podcast. Casey, fill them in.
Since we are diving headfirst into the backcountry hunting this season, we decided to call in some help and talk to some experts that know how to crush it in the backcountry.
So make sure and subscribe, and if this is helpful, we'd love for you guys to give us a 5-star rating and an iTunes review.
Absolutely. Now let's get into it, because I still have a lot of Mountain House flavors to try before September gets here. All right, today on the show, we've got Jay Scott of Jay Scott Outdoors. Jay, what is happening, man?
How are you guys?
A little warm. It's hot down here in Texas, but I understand you are where it is a lot cooler than we are. Is that right?
I am. I spend the summers in the fall in Colorado. My summer place is actually between Glenwood Springs and Aspen.
Ooh.
And here in the Roaring Fork Valley. And we usually get here about the 15th of May, right after my Gould's turkey hunts down in Mexico. We come straight up here. And, you know, this year's been a kind of a crazy year because of all the snowfall. Colorado in general has, all across the Southwest, but Colorado just got absolutely pounded with snow, especially late snow. You know, a lot of that March, April snow, and our runoff, to be honest with you guys, is probably a full 30 days behind as far as our rivers and such. The Roaring Fork River that runs right here, right down the valley, it's just becoming fishable, whereas it's normally fishable, you know, the end of June. So,
yeah.
You know, it's good. I've been hiking a lot in the high country, and, you know, although we haven't had just tons and tons of monsoonal type rain, you know, showers periodic here and there, but the vegetation is just, it looks like a tropical rainforest out there. And, you know, the elk and the deer and just the animals in general seem to be doing really good. So, yeah, it's this fall 2019 season all across the Southwest is something that, you know, we're all super excited about and can't wait for it to get here. You know, there's antelope hunts starting here in Colorado, and you know, mule deer hunts in Arizona. It's stuff's really starting to happen right now. A bunch of my buddies have gotten back from Dall sheep hunts, so it's on. You know, 19 season is here.
I know, man. It's crazy. We for us, it's a lot of trying to run and make it to where we are not, or the least amount of flatlander as we can be where we're from. You know, it's pretty tough to do. But you know, I was up in Colorado, I guess the second week of July. And, I mean, the rivers were raging. You could pretty much only fish tailwaters in high mountain streams, and that was it. You know, all the lakes up high were frozen over, 95% or so. No fishing to be done there. And we kind of struggled to fish or to find just fishable water. You know, all the tailwaters were okay. Like the Taylor and some of the other stuff was pretty good, but it was a different year. I think I saw that some of the snowfall was up to 2,000% of the averages or something like that. Is that right?
You know, I saw some crazy numbers myself. I don't know exactly how they measure that, but yeah, there was some ridiculous snowfall totals out there for sure. And, you know, my fishing has been fairly limited to the ranch that we live on here. It's got quite a bit of Spring Creek fishing here. But, you know, I've made 2 trips up to the Green River and caught the cicada hatch. And then we hiked the boat down in the Gunnison Gorge and just caught the salmon fly hatch just head on. And fished the eagle a couple days ago. And, you know, here before I head over to the Ot6 Ranch, which is in south central Colorado, here around the 1st of September, I'll get quite a few days here on the Roaring Fork and kind of all around the Colorado and in this area right here. So it definitely has been one of these summers that, it's awesome because we need the moisture, we need the water. It's good for the streams. But as a fisherman, normally I would already have big calluses on my hands from rowing my raft and my boat around and what have you. And, really haven't seen that. So, I've rowed some, but not, normally I'd probably have, 40 days in by now, and I've probably got 10 or 12. So, but yeah, it's awesome. The vegetation is lush, and I think the elk and deer especially are doing well pretty much all over the Southwest. Something that's interesting, our monsoonal rains, which usually come, in Arizona. I live half the year in Arizona, and that's where I'm from. I guided elk for 20 years in the state of Arizona, and our monsoonal rains usually kick in around the 4th of July. And to be honest with you, really, we didn't have much rain until probably about the 25th of July. So as wet of a winter that we had and as wet of a spring that we had, we really did not follow that up, which I was just hoping for the perfect storm of, great winter, great spring, and great monsoonal. Well, so far the monsoons have really not hit widespread across Arizona, which then all funnels up into Utah and New Mexico. And where I'm going with that is a lot of my buddies that are guiding are saying, antler growth looks good, but the country looks dry. We could sure use some moisture just to green it up. And then me being, kind of a selfish pig, just wanting Arizona to just have the biggest, most giant bulls around. I think by not having that monsoonal moisture, it doesn't affect the elk as much, but I think the deer can benefit from it. But we'll see. It's still above average, and they've already had some really good bulls shot. Really big buck on the strip was shot today, and so yeah, it's going to be another great year for sure.
Yeah, that's exciting, especially for someone in your profession. And I think it's cool that you can kind of plot these years out and kind of know what to expect and what to look forward to. And something that I'm very interested in that you're a proponent of is you are an antler guy. Like, you enjoy large scoring animals, and now it's almost like it's cool across social media to say, oh, it's not about the horns and this and that. Well, it isn't until it is, right? Because we all dream of going these trophy units and being able to hunt for really big world-class animals. And I think that when people do that, they almost sometimes take away from, how rare, how majestic of a creature that is. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I on my podcast, I don't make any excuses. I am a trophy hunter. I will till the day I die. I love the meat. That doesn't mean I don't take the meat. I think trophy hunting has got a bad connotation. I love being selective. I love being able to field judge and look at animals and try and harvest the most mature animals I can. When I do catch some flack on my Instagram, because I do try and help and educate people to be as accurate as they can with their field judging, that's simply coming from a standpoint of, I want to be accurate. I want to be credible, and I want to eliminate the factor of saying, oh, that bull was a giant, he was 390. Well, how long were his points? Well, I don't know, he was 390. So, with all of the animals that I hunt, I try and study. I try and keep lots of photos. I try and keep as much data as I can to be as accurate. Being a professional guide, when a client asks you what's that ram score or buck score or bull score, I want to be the guy, and I always have wanted to be the guy that's credible, not from a standpoint of an ego standpoint, but more to be reliable. And when a client says, how old is that ram, and how big is he, I want to come very, very close to the correct score. And so I try and focus, and I have for a long time, try and focus on helping people, be able to analyze and to kind of step away from the emotion of the situation and, be able to put, number one, body size and kind of age on animals and judge every animal. How big is the body? Okay, he's got a giant body. That's going to make his rack look different, or his horns look different, whatever we're judging. But it all goes back to in Arizona, growing up there, and having, in my opinion, probably the best trophy hunting as far as mature animals anywhere in the country. It's important. A lot of guys wait 20, 25 years to draw tags, and I never wanted to be the guy that said it was a 360 bull and you get up there and it's 315. And it happens all the time to people, and I think the reason it happens is they don't take the time to really study and analyze and try and be as accurate as possible. I sometimes I'll get people that criticize and say that, oh, you're just an antler snob. You're just, I say, well, in my opinion, everybody's a trophy hunter. And I don't know anybody that if there's two bucks standing there and there's a 2-point buck that's, a 2-year-old buck, and then there's a 30-inch buck with kickers off both sides, I don't know a single person that says, I'm going to shoot the 2-year-old because his meat is going to be more tender. I don't run into any of those type of people. There may be people that say, oh, yeah, I'd shoot the 2-point. But the reality is, those people are going to shoot the 30-inch buck with the trash all the time.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a time. I just don't see it. So we're all trophy hunters, I believe. And, the term's been thrown around in the media. It's been politicized and what have you. But if anybody spends any amount of time with me in the woods, they understand that I want to shoot the buck that is on the downhill slide, or that is at the top of his peak performance and over some of the younger animals. And I want to be able to accurately tell someone if it's 180-inch buck or a 170-inch ram or a 390-inch bull, just from a credibility standpoint. I just think having people around that can accurately field judge when you guys are going on a hunt, your buddy goes out and he glasses up a bull and you've got some good action going, he pulls you off to go look at another bull, and you're like, man, I had 4 bulls bigger than that one where I just was. So that's my whole goal of trying to help people evaluate. And I have people send me, photos of stuff all the time and trying to get my opinion. And I just try and call it what it is. I don't ever try and sugarcoat it or make it sound better than it is. I just try and, call a spade a spade.
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, that's, I've never heard it really put that way, but it makes so much sense. And I actually tag KC all the time in your posts whenever you do like, hey, guess this bull, kind of thing, because, we got, as we talked about earlier off air, he drew a pretty good tag. So it's not that he's going to be disappointed with an elk at all, but when you put in for that tag, you expect that if you draw that tag, you have a chance at a pretty big bull. And so, we want to be pretty accurate there. And so and
I would also like to say that, I know there's lots of hunts where any bull or any buck is a phenomenal feat. Mm-hmm. So, the guys out there listening that maybe live in states where there's not super high end quality or mature animals, I totally get it. Like, I know that in Colorado, OTC, shooting any bull in most cases is a fantastic bull. I get it. But when you look at New Mexico, you look at Utah, you look at Arizona, some of the units in Nevada, what have you, there are units that take a long, long time to draw, and you're going to see a lot of bulls and you're going to have a lot of opportunities. So why not educate yourself and try and figure out, exactly what it is you're looking at so that you can make an educated decision. Mm-hmm. I'm the guy that, encourages people to go the full length of the hunt. And, I'd rather weed through a bunch of bulls and shoot the one I want than just shoot one on the first day and go, man, if I would have done a little more research and figured it out, this is a caliber of bull that you'll see every single day on this hunt. Mm-hmm. And you never give your chance a chance to shoot a big bull. So, or buck or what have you. So, I get it though, when there's certain hunts and certain units and certain animals that it's like, if you get one, it's a successful hunt. I'm all for that.
Sure, yeah. When you've been putting in for 20 years, do you really want your hunt to end that first day unless it actually is like world class, And so, You know, you kind of, it's like I'm putting in for 20 years, and my hunt lasted a day, and I shot a bull that was, like you said, an everyday occurrence there. Then you kind of have to take all that into consideration. And I've never heard of, you know, from the professional standpoint, and I appreciate that, because I'm a wedding videographer by trade. I do high-end wedding films, and there are things that I really don't love about my clients. Their vanity in a lot of situations, and just the big show that it becomes at a wedding, instead of more focused on a husband marrying a wife, and the two joining as one and just having that relationship and that moment together. And so it turns into this kind of circus for Instagram kind of thing. But the thing is, in the end of the day, I'm hired to do a job, so I do what that bride would appreciate. You know what I mean? As long as it's not against my morals or values, obviously. But you know, that's what I do. So it's in a similar boat as to what you're talking about there. You're trying to do something as accurate as you possibly can, so that your client is satisfied in the end, as opposed to being disappointed.
Yeah, and I feel like the reputation, you know, that's really your word, and reputation are all you have when it comes down to it. And I've just always tried to be accurate. I've always tried to be credible. The biggest thing that would just, you know, rock me to my core is if someone says I wasn't credible or I wasn't accurate. Mm-hmm. Now everybody can make mistakes, and I've dang sure made my own mistakes. But you know, being able to say something and have someone say, okay, Jay's saying it's this and it's this, and you know, everything, he's not just throwing something out there on a whim. He's studied it, and he's trying to be as accurate as possible. And you know, I think we've all seen it where we have hunting partners and people in hunting camp that, you know, oh, I saw 6 bucks, and you know, I saw, you know, 3 of them were 30 inches and, you know, had kickers off both sides, and you just shake your head and you go like, yeah, right. Yeah. And then you have someone that comes in and says, hey man, I saw a buck that you really probably need to focus on and take a look at. And depending on that person's character and their track record, depends on whether, you know, that it dictates whether you're going to go even look for that buck. Right. You know, my hunting partner, Dar Colburn, if he ever tells me, hey, I think you need to come over here and take a look at it, I mean, I run there. I get there as fast as I can, because, you know, it's usually something giant. And the whole time I'm, you know, like, what is it? What is it? What is it? Just get over here. Get over here as fast as you know. So, you know, and we've all had the same guys that are like, yeah, I saw, you know, 400-inch bull, and then he beat up a 380 bull, and you know, you're just like, and then you don't even go there that afternoon because you know he's full of bull. Yeah. Don't be that guy, right? So don't be that guy. Yeah. So
you know, you said you were a guide for elk for 20 years. I guess you've moved kind of in the sheep direction a little bit more, or?
No, to be honest with you, I guided elk in the state of Arizona for 20 years. And in 2017, a good friend of mine bought a ranch, it's called the Yacht 6 Ranch in South Central Colorado, and asked me to be kind of quote unquote the hunt manager. It's just for him and his family. We are in the Colorado Ranching for Wildlife program, so we do have one public bull tag that we give, and then we have some cow tags in December and January. And so I was faced with the decision of, do I want to give up guiding? So 20 years in a row, I took the entire month of September off. Not like you hear guys, oh yeah, I'm hunting in I'm taking September. Like, I took off and was gone from the entire month and even into the first week of October. First time I heard an elk bugle, I told myself I don't ever want to miss that month of September. So I've spent, you know, now probably I'm getting old, but let's see, probably 23 years of spending waking up every single morning at 3 a.m. in September, going and videoing and chasing and taking photos and, you know, calling and, you know, just messing with elk. I love elk. You know, I still guide sheep in Arizona. This December, I've got some sheep hunters, and we still do Coues deer hunting in Mexico, and then Gould's turkey in Mexico in the spring. But, you know, elk was such a focus of mine in the state of Arizona for so long. But this opportunity to be on an unbelievable private ranch and basically do exactly what I did for 20 years. And that's, video these elk, monitor these elk, glass these elk, just watch them, categorize them, classify them, and we're trying to build a phenomenal elk herd, in the state of Colorado there at the OT6. And, I think we've had a couple of good years of shooting some management bulls, and, someday I think it will be recognized as one of the top ranches in the West for bulls. So that's kind of the shift of my focus. And it's a sweet gig.
Cool.
Yeah, that's very cool, man. And I've kind of followed along a little bit and been able to at least see some of the media that you've been producing from there, just some giant bulls and great pictures and video of just some killer bulls. And I so much appreciate when you do those Instagram things where it is the guess the score, let's talk about this and evaluate that, because I am one of those hunters who has spent my whole hunting life on the over-the-counter units. And, the first, 5-inch brow tine bull that comes in or whatever.
It's legal.
It's legal. I'm doing my best. Actually, first cow, first legal animal, because I like to eat, but I love to shoot big things, but I just never have had the chance. And now, I kind of, since I've drawn a New Mexico Gila Wilderness tag, I'm having to shift focus a touch. I'm trying to manage my expectations, of course, but I do need to consider, like, hey, if a raggy comes in, I probably am not going to shoot him, So I need to be able to make those little quick, determinations on, is this really a shooter bull, or is this something that's I'd be happier extending my hunt as opposed to, ending it now. And, I appreciate that. So,
yeah,
I'm sure.
I think, sorry to interrupt, but
No.
to further that, I think you have to ask yourself, and, when I go out on my own personal hunts and such, I ask myself, what would I be happy with on the last day? Mm-hmm. So would I be happy? Am I fine going without one? And, if this is one of your first, prime hunts, maybe you're saying, I really want to get a bull. So I want to leave. So kind of ask yourself a few questions. I really want to get a bull. Okay. I want to leave with a bull. Okay. What size would I just be over the moon with if I killed, a 350 bull or a 330 bull or a 380 bull? What would I just be over the moon? Say, well, geez, if I could get anything, remotely close to 350, I'd be just stoked. Okay. So then you go into it with the expectation of, like, I'm hunting for a 350 bull. And if a 300 bull comes in bugling on the first day, you've already set your mind that you want a 350 bull. The only thing I would encourage you, like I talk to a lot of hunters, is don't set the bar so high that it's not achievable and takes the fun out of it. If you'd be tickled pink with a 320 6x6, then say, I'd really like a 360, 370, but I'd be tickled pink with a 320. So, if in the first couple days I get a beautiful opportunity at a perfect 6x6, 320 class that's bugling and comes right in and I can make a great shot, then shoot it and be happy. Or on the flip side, you say, hey, even though I've never killed the bull, I want a 350 plus, then hunt the whole time and kill a 350 plus, or don't kill. I mean, at some point you have to go through the rounds of, drawing back on a bull, maintaining your composure, making a great shot, and, going through all of those steps. And certainly guys that have shot, a bunch of bulls, I firmly believe that because of repetition, they are probably going to be a better hunter or better archer in that situation because they've done it. Mm-hmm. But set your expectations. And I always say go into the hunt trying to have as much fun as you possibly can. For me, I've shot a handful of bulls and I've shot a handful of good ones. I'm wanting to shoot something that's, really gets me going, that I look at and say, man, that's different than anything I've ever shot. Or, I want to shoot XYZ bull. And, I had a tag in 2016 in the Beaver, one of the best units in Utah. And I had a great friend of mine helping me on the hunt, and he had scouted out some bulls and had a history with one particular bull. And I saw a bunch of the trail cameras and I said, that's the bull I want to hunt. And I said, I've shot a lot of big bulls. If I kill this bull, it won't be the biggest bull I've killed. It's probably one of the biggest in this unit, but I'm if I don't get that bull, I'm going home with that one. And I mean, I hunted the entire hunt, had 2 opportunities at him, and quite honestly should have got it done. I never released an arrow, but that to me is fun. So everybody has a little bit different threshold of what is fun to you. Fun to me is going down to Mexico on a personal tag and saying, my biggest buck's 134 inches. I want to shoot a giant. I want to shoot the biggest buck I can find. And I've eaten so many tags, it's unbelievable. That to me is fun. So, not to keep kicking the dead horse, but figure out what it is that you want out of it and then pursue it.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's totally cool, man. And that's kind of while we've been polling the audience so much and talking to so many people who kind of have experience, with elk and with big elk and with cool units and stuff, because it's just not something I understand. And it's something that you really do have a great grasp of, and I appreciate that. So, you talked about earlier guys who have been drawn on big elk a lot and how that kind of bolsters their ability to continue to shoot more big elk because, it kind of takes the edge off a little bit. And that the broader version of that is just more time spent doing this is going to help you and give you a better grasp of what it takes to actually get in the backcountry and get it done. And that's kind of what we wanted to quiz you about a little bit. You've had a lot of success through the years, and you've had a lot of experience doing things in many ways, especially in the southwestern part of the country, which is kind of a unique area. So what are some of the really common hurdles that you're going to have to kind of get over if you are going to go to that part of the country and try to hunt in the backcountry?
Well, I think one of the things first off is you're going to have to understand, and I try and explain this when I'm guiding hunters, whatever hunt it may be, but in particular on elk, is it's not always going to be like the videos. It's not always going to be like you read in the magazine articles. There's going to be times during the hunt when it's an absolute grind. There's going to be times during the hunt. Now, how much time do you have to hunt? Have you set aside a certain amount of time, or Tyler and I both are
self-employed. So since this is the dream tag, I'm gonna be there the whole time and hopefully a day early to get in and maybe scout around a little bit.
Okay, so like 9 or 10 days, right?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've got the whole time to hunt. You've got to understand that there's going to be certain circumstances, whether it be weather, whether it be, other hunters, whether it be the elk are just not cooperating, the elk are not in the right spot. You could go chase them, but you could blow them out. It's going to be a grind. It's not just going to be a bugle fest all the time and just be unbelievable, although it could be. And I think people are like, man, it's been 3 days and I haven't gotten a shot opportunity, so now I'm just going to shoot anything. Well, that's fine. You absolutely have the right to just say, I was going into it trying to shoot a 330 and now I'll shoot any bull. But I would urge you and urge other people that are listening, set your goal and set your mind and get your mind right of, I know it's going to be tough. I know it's not always going to be great. I know they're not always going to be just screaming and coming into the call, and know that you're going to get 2 or 3 or 4 opportunities in that 10-day stretch, and you've got to be able to capitalize on those opportunities. So as long as you don't look at it as like, it's going to be a scream fest from day 1 to, day 10, that that, okay, there's going to be some grind. It's going to get hot. It's going to, you're going to have lightning and you're going to have rain and you're going to have all kinds of stuff that it's going to be a challenge. I mean, you guys I take it you're not taking horses. You're going to go in on foot?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. So you're going to go on foot. And, some of the challenges that you're going to have, I think, as an elk hunter is the wind always has to be right, or else you're going to blow the whole gig. Mm-hmm. So part of that is you guys are going to have to stay clean. You're going to have to, in my mind, use unscented deodorant, wash all your clothing in unscented laundry detergent. And you're going to want to have a change of clothes that you're constantly being able to wash out, hang dry, and try and get as much human scent off of you as you can. That's a hurdle in itself of when you're in the backcountry and you stink to high heaven. You guys are going to have to figure out, how can we shower? How can we capitalize on rainwater to do that? Is there streams, springs, water holes? nearby that we can get water so that we can keep ourselves clean. But I think that's going to be a huge part of it because, the more that elk are able to smell you, the more you're going to blow out a certain area and you're going to have to move your camp.
Mm-hmm.
And then the challenge also, I think, is, after the hunt, once you get a bull down, I mean, you guys are going to be who knows where in the Gila wilderness, and you're going to have to carry it out. So, I would say potentially have someone scheduled with horses that could come in if you shoot them a text on the inReach device, or if one of you has to walk out and, shoot them a text and say, come get us, or plan on, okay, how far are we going in? And if I get one in here, are the two of us going to be able to get this elk out? Those are some challenges. The other are like tactics and strategies that you're going to use. Are you going to plan on calling a lot? Are you going to plan on stalking a lot? You kind of have to be able to adapt to what are the elk doing. They're bugling like crazy. You don't have to call much. You can just slip in there and check them out. So trying to kind of figure your way in a new unit and in a new place, I would consider as a hurdle. Trying to figure out what gear works for you. Have you eaten your freeze-dried meals and figured out which food sits better with your stomach? Which you don't want to get in there and just be, having to run to the bushes all the time. So, what works good for you? How much water do you need? How do you sleep on an air mattress? Is your rain fly watertight on your tent? I mean, those are all hurdles that I think you're going to have to kind of figure out. How about your feet? Are they going to hold up the entire time with the amount of weight that you're going to have to carry in? And do you have boots that work really well for you?
Mm-hmm.
Those are all things that I think you're going to have to think about.
Yeah, for sure. So if you don't mind, let's break that down a little bit, and maybe we can just ask you kind of what has worked for you in the past. And the biggest thing for me that comes to mind when I think of the Southwest is, I've hunted western Colorado most of my life, and every drainage there's water. It's not a big deal, and I think that it's going to be different where we go. So having water on hand and being able to purify water is going to be a big deal. What do you use for that situation?
So, I mean, there's a lot of great water purifiers out there. I have several from several different manufacturers. One thing I would do is recommend getting it and using it, making sure that unit works really, really well. Drinking the water out of it, making sure that your equipment, works perfectly. The last thing you want to do is get out there and have a water purification, have to purify your water, and you get there and you're like, crap, it doesn't work right. or you get out there and be like, man, that the hose has a hole in it, or look at this, it's right out of the package and something's wrong. So get it, use it, be comfortable with it, make sure the filter's clean. There's tons of great manufacturers out there, and I'd have to even look at the brands. I have several different ones. I like the ones that obviously, I don't know how to explain it, but where you would pump it more like a bike pump.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than the ones that have the handle that you kind of crank down, more like would it be like a pair of pliers, how you would crank one end down. I like the one where you actually push, you actually hold, that just screw into your Nalgene bottle and you literally can just push like a bike pump. Mm-hmm. Those seem to work best. We use those in the Alaska goat hunt. We use those, and I use them a lot in the Gunnison Gorge as well, and they all are different. Find the one that works best for you, and then make sure you use it and make sure that the unit that you're taking is operational. It might be a good idea that both of you take them. Mm-hmm. But then simple things like those Sawyer minis too, just those little filters that you can always have on you, whether in your fanny pack or in your pocket or in your pack. They even make them where you can just sip it like a straw. Those work as well.
Mm-hmm. So are you carrying extra water with you when you're in dry country? Are you We've had guys that talk about dirty bags or just extra water bags that they carry with them.
Yeah, so I mean, you're going to want to have those platypus bags. That's, a dirty bag. I would label it, and then have your clean water bags as well. It depends how much you guys are going to move around. I haven't been in the 16B, that wilderness, so I haven't analyzed it and looked at it to see, is there drainages with water? Are there puddles around? Are there stock tanks around? What's in there? So you guys could probably tell me. I would probably plan on hunting in an area where there's quite a bit of water, because usually where there's quite a bit of water, there's going to be quite a bit of elk.
Mm-hmm.
On a daily basis, when you're going to actually be going out and hunting, I wouldn't take a whole lot of water with you. I would take the ability to purify water, and have an Nalgene bottle that you can constantly keep filling. And then, camp somewhere where you have good access to water, where you guys can take turns going down and making sure that you always have a good supply of water when you get back from a day's hunt. And, hey, I'm going to go down and get us a bunch of water, and, basically stockpile your water so that you never come back to camp and you're beat, you've shot a bull, and now you got to go get your water. Have some of those, clean bags ready to go back at camp. And then I would day hunt from there, and, you might have to move camp though. Mm-hmm. So, I would go as light as possible if I was you guys. I don't know what kind of clothing and that type of gear you've got, set to wear. But, I would personally, I'd probably be wearing the Kuyu Tiburon pants, definitely probably be wearing that. And then for rain gear, I'd look at, the Kutana rain gear or the Chugach rain gear, something very, very lightweight. You're going to probably get some thunderstorms and some lightning, and so having some rain gear is going to be huge, because you definitely don't want to get soaked. The good news is your temperatures, it's going to be fairly warm, and probably even warmer than what you're used to in Colorado as well.
Mm-hmm. So this is kind of a random question in regards to something that you said, but the Gila River actually goes through that area. And so we should have some access there to water. But I guess my question is more a hunting question here, because you said that elk usually tend to congregate around water or areas with lots of water. Do they drink out of rivers very often, or are they most of the time trying to find a still water?
No, I mean, I found that animals really like live water. They'll choose live water a lot over. They'll drink wherever, whatever's convenient. Mm-hmm. I don't know the Gila River as far as it sounds like a big. I know where it flows into Arizona. The one thing I would caution you is make sure that the Gila isn't like a 1,000-foot drop down to the water, so you got to camp and go all the way down to get your water.
That would be terrible.
Yeah, and so maybe look at some of the smaller creek drainages that feed into the Gila. Mm-hmm. Really study Google Earth and try and figure out, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to be down in the bottom of a canyon, stuck down there, where every morning you've got to hike up and out of it to get to where you want to be, or where you have to hike down in the canyon and back up to your camp. So, I would hunt on the map areas that have lots of water, but maybe possibly not a main drainage like the Gila River drainage. Now, you may be able to look at the topo map and say, oh yeah, it's only a 200-foot drop down and back to get water. Well, that's fine, but when you start talking about 1,000 to 1,500 feet just to go get water, that's going to wear you guys out in a heartbeat.
Sure. Yeah, I can definitely see that for sure. Just being, no matter what we do, we're still flatlanders, so it is going to be, just something to deal with. Luckily, it's not quite as high of elevation as what some places are, so it's not going to be terrible. It's going to be a lot like, spending some time in some of the Colorado places. But you were talking about earlier making sure you go in light, and really in relation to camp specifically, you said that you thought it would be a good idea to possibly base camp and then day hunt out from there, and then have the ability to move camp. So when you're doing that, and say it's a situation like us where we don't have horses, we can't bring in canvas, what kind of shelters are you using for that situation?
So I always use the KUIU Mountain Star 2-person tent. Now you guys, depending on how big a guys you are, you could absolutely just take one tent and you guys just get to know each other really, really well.
Been there,
We've done that, yeah, for sure.
When I've gone on these Dall sheep hunts and mountain goat hunts and stuff, I like having my own tent. So I'm perfectly fine, carrying the KUIU Mountain Star 2-person tent and having all of my own gear inside my tent. So if it were me, I would probably take your own shelter. If you guys decide that you're gonna spoon every night, that's fine too, because you're gonna save a bunch of weight when you do that.
Yeah.
And to something you were saying that I said about, in my mind, when you're actually chasing and hunting elk, you don't want to have your whole camp on your back if you can help it. So the way I would be prepping for that hunt is I would be talking to as many people as I can. I would be doing as much research as I can of what are some good areas where you have multiple areas of, you walk a mile this way and you're into elk, you walk a mile this way, you're into elk, and basically you can go in, set a base camp, go collect all your water, get your camp set up, and then just go start, shotgunning and hitting these different spots. Now you spend 2 or 3 days in there and you say, well, we've seen everything in here or we've blown everything out and we think we've heard about this other area. Then you can pack up your camp, move to another location, maybe hunt along the way, possibly. If you have to drop your backpack or something, to chase after a bull, that's one thing. Make sure you mark your backpack. But and then get into another area and spend 2 or 3 or 4 days. So I would kind of have it figured where you're not just going to hunt as you go. You're going to go, you're going to set up, and then you're going to hunt out of there until you either establish that, hey, this is not the area we're looking for. We haven't found what we want. And now we're going to go try, area B or area C or area D, or you get to your spot that you want to go and you find out the guys just rode horses right through there and dropped off, 6 other hunters right in the exact spot. So I would plan it out where you have, 4, 5, 6 different options within the unit where there's handful, of areas that you can kind of hit from a central base camp. And approach it like that. Even if that means packing out, go into your vehicle and driving, 15 miles away over on the other side of the unit and go into a completely different spot. I would have the ability to go mobile or be as mobile as possible, for sure, in that situation on that hunt.
Yeah. So you've talked a couple times about, the pack itself and dropping your pack and this and that. What do you usually look for in a backcountry style pack that you're going to be overnight camping out of?
So I use the KUIU Ultra 7000. The new pack is the new Pro Pack 6000. They also make a 7800. I want to have a pack that I can also, if I'm day hunting, I can get all my gear in there. Okay. Then I can shrink it down, take everything out, tighten all the straps up. And it's basically just like a day pack that's not very heavy. Being lightweight is huge, but being able to, and that's what I like about the KUIU packs. I can take the 7800 and take all my food in there. Use the load hauler system where, the bag pulls away from the frame and you can still put bags of meat inside and that kind of stuff, between the pack frame and the bag. But on the other hand, where if you're just day hunting, you can take a few of your essentials. You can even drop off some of the, the carrying pockets and stuff and shrink that bag down. So its modularity is what I look for in that situation where you're not going to need it. But if you kill an elk and you're a mile from camp, you don't have to go back and, get some other pack. You can just basically expand that out. So I like those 7,000 and up cubic inch packs myself. Especially on an elk hunt. I mean, you guys are going to have your hands full if you kill one in there. You're going to have multiple trips probably out to your vehicle and back. The likelihood of you guys, being able to carry your whole camp and a split up elk is probably unlikely. So,
yeah.
But definitely going with a pack that you can, it's a modularity pack where you can break it down when you're just using it for a day pack is huge.
Yeah. So a big pack like that could possibly get really heavy, like you said. What I think your boots are a pretty good part of the equation there as far as getting a lot of weight out. What does your footwear look like? Because I know some guys in dry or arid climates will a lot of times wear like a trail runner or something like that. But what are you using?
Man, I'm 46 now. The trail runner to me and carrying heavy weight it just doesn't mix at all. I think those Kuiu Rebel K boots are about as good. They're a technical boot, and they may be a little extreme for the amount of verticality that you'll have. Is verticality a word? The amount of
I think George Bush said it once, so it's got to be.
If George said it, then it is a word.
That's
there
right.
You go. The amount of vertical, it's probably a little bit of overkill because there are places I've heard in there that are pretty steep, but maybe not like Mountain Goat or Dull Sheep steep.
Mm-hmm.
But having a stiff soled boot under heavy weight, I think is huge. And then, there's a lot of good synthetic boots out there. The old standby leather, I used to wear the Schnee's Granite pretty much on all of those, backcountry sheep hunts and all those hunts where I'm going to be out pounding around, but they're so heavy. These days, some of these synthetic boots, they're so light, and the amount of weight that you save on each step, if your boot is 1.5 pounds or 2 pounds lighter, that makes all the difference in the world sometimes. But I don't think the trail runner, I don't think the running shoe mentality is good when you're going to be packing out a whole elk between the two of you. I would go with more of a sturdy boot. I would definitely get something that's, in that, let's call it a 6 to 10 inch type boot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To give you a little bit more support for sure.
Yeah. And along with that,
then,
go ahead.
Something that just came to my mind though too, and it's kind of off that subject, is make sure you guys have a real good understanding of where the trail systems are in that unit. From what I understand, there are quite a bit of trails, and know where, hey, if I kill an elk here, the fastest way out, the easiest way out, and sometimes it's longer, but the easier way out of carrying weight is on a trail rather than just bushwhacking across country.
Right.
And that's where, I'm a big proponent of OnX maps, and there's other great mapping, software out there as well. But, have a good map where where the trails to be able to get in and out of that country is.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that has been pretty handy is on OnX. Not only can you put the trails on there, but it'll show you the steepness or severity of the trails. So you can see, which ones you're going to be gaining elevation quickly and which ones are flatter and stuff like that, which is kind of handy, especially when you start plotting, entry and exit routes. You don't want to just kill yourself trying to get in there, and when you could, take a different trail that's going to be a lot easier for you. But
yeah, and I would also take, whether you use them or not, going in, a trekking pole or two,
mm-hmm.
or maybe 2 trekking poles where each one of you can each have a trekking pole once you do kill one and, you start heading out. To me, I wish I would have used trekking poles a lot earlier. I think my knees are pretty good, but it seems like every year that goes by, I feel my knees a little bit more, and I think I abused them when I was younger. And even though you say, well, I don't need them, I would tell you if you use it as a standard practice on all your hunts of once you get weight to use a trekking pole, it's amazing. I won't go anywhere personally without 2 trekking poles. To me, it takes all of the pressure off of my knees, and going uphill and downhill, especially downhill,
mm-hmm.
gives me a lot more stability. So that might be something you might think about.
Oh yeah, for sure. And honestly, I just purchased some not long ago for that this summer trip that we took just to try it out. And I'll confess, I am a standard uncoordinated white boy. It takes a little bit of getting used to trying to figure out, when to put which pole down and that sort of thing. But it's a ton of help.
Yeah, you kind of get the hang of it the more you do it,
yeah.
And it'll become second nature. But I can tell you with heavy weight, especially side hilling and probably trying to get to and from the trails, carrying weight, it makes all the difference in the world. And I just think it takes a lot of stress off your body, especially your knees. And literally they're in my pack all the time. I don't go anywhere without them. Even on these summer scouting trips, whatever, I always have my trekking poles.
Yeah. So speaking of taking stress off, the pad, the sleeping pad is like a big deal for me. I have an old injury in my back, and so I'm just interested in what pad you use when you do stay out in it.
I use that Thermarest Neo Air.
Uh-huh.
And gosh, I don't know how big the tubes are once they're inflated, but the only thing is it's a little bit crinkly, I would say. When you sleep, that would be my only gripe if you're a real soft sleeper. But if you're working hard and grinding, you're going to fall asleep, and you could probably just fall asleep right on the ground with no pad. You're going to be so tired. But I've used that. I've used that Neo Air on, lately the goat hunt, both Dall sheep hunts last summer, and then trips here and there scouting for sheep and what have you. I really like it. It's super lightweight. I think I like a full length pad. I'm 6'2", like Fletch 6'6" with the afro. You guys are probably too young to have seen that movie. Yeah, I'm 6'2", and I like a full size pad. Like Brady Miller over at Go Hunt. He'll take this little pad that's like 2 feet. It's like, golly, I don't know that I could do that.
Brady Miller's crazy. He does tennis shoes. He cuts his toothbrush in half. A different guy. He's
a different breed. And I keep, I've told him before, like, hey, when you get to 46 and you're still wearing tennis shoes, I'll be surprised.
Yeah.
But, he is an animal for sure. But I like a full-length pad. I like to get a good night's sleep, and I'm willing to take a little bit extra weight to have a full-size sleeping pad. Mm-hmm. And I use that Neo Air.
What temperature bag can you get away with in the Southwest during that time of year?
So I sleep pretty hot, and I typically carry that Kuyu 30-degree bag. Mm-hmm. I would think that would be plenty. Because on my Northwest Territories hunt and on that mountain goat hunt in Alaska, I took the 30-degree bag and I was perfect. I did take the 15-degree on the Chugach, but there were days that it didn't get over 45 degrees. You guys will have temperatures, probably lows, and possibly like the high 20s, low 30s as low. And, you could get up 70, 80 degrees. So, I would think a 30-degree bag, you could even go with, something in that 40 plus, and then just, wear, your merino or wear your synthetic, whatever you're going to wear on top, and, wear your beanie and kind of layer up. So whatever system you're taking, I would definitely, I just don't see the temperatures getting cold enough where you need anything below a 30-degree bag.
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of what I've been looking at, just, you don't want to overkill, but at the same time, man, some nights I've been out there, especially in northwestern or northeastern Arizona, where it can be warm in the day and then it can plummet, when it gets later at night. So I know that the big swings in temperature are kind of what to worry about. But for the most part,
you guys will be spooning anyway. So.
Yeah, that's right. Body heat does wonders. So
yeah, exactly.
So when you talk about temperature, it kind of makes meat care come to mind. And yes, of course, we're going to be doing our best to get it out as quick as possible. And I got a number for a packer if we think we need them. Can get them on the inReach or whatever. But either way, meat is going to have to sit for some period of time out there. So if you're lucky enough to be able to let it sit overnight, I'm sure it can cool, pretty well. But do you have any tricks or tactics for making sure that you are able to get the meat out in good shape?
Yeah, I would take some string where you can hang that meat up, take some small, fine string, rope, twine, whatever you call it, and pick your spot where you're going to, get the most shaded area you can. You've got to keep that meat in the shade. Try and keep in mind, where's the afternoon sun, where's the morning sun. try and get that in an area where it's going to be covered as much out of the sun as possible. Get that meat up off the ground where air can blow through it. Let it blow through your game bags. And, the reality is you're going to have to get it out as quickly as possible. I've seen things where, guys go hang it down right above a creek and, they say that cools it and what have you. I just don't know that you're going to have like cool mountain streams and that kind of stuff in this country. You might, I don't know it well enough. But the real thing is get the hide off of it immediately. Those elk, you got to roll them around, get all of the meat off, get the hide off, and get that meat hanging, and then just start making as many trips as you can, as quick as you can. I don't think there's any real, you're going to have warm temperatures as it is. So you're going to have to find the shadiest spot you can to hang that meat. And, there you have to worry about bears. So you're going to want to get it up where, you don't come back and the bears are just all over it.
Yeah, for sure. Now, what about having like adequate storage when you get back to the vehicle? That's something we haven't really thought too much about. I mean, we've got a bunch of coolers. Would you just put a bunch of dry ice in the coolers before you leave and just hope it's there when you get back?
Yeah, I mean, you could do dry ice and keep those coolers sealed. That 10-day period, you might have to test your cooler now before you go and see how many days. Try and simulate roughly the same amount of temperature that it's going to be in your vehicle, and see if, some of these coolers these days, whether it be Yeti or Canyon or Grizzly or whatever cooler, they're pretty darn good. But the reality is, more than that, I would look at, is there someone that you could call that could be on standby that you could come bring meat to? They take it into, somewhere to hang it, whether they're going to process it for you, you're going to process your own. Is there anybody? I do some research and find out if there's any meat lockers or, coolers around where, and hey, I've got a buddy that lives in, this town. And he said, yeah, if you kill it and bring it to, this waypoint, he'll meet up with us. He'll take that load of meat in and hang it in the cooler. So those are something to think about as well. The coolers in your truck, 10 days, that's a long time. So I don't have a ton of faith in the dry ice theory, and you're going to need some big coolers as well.
Yeah.
But, you can try it. I would try right now and say, okay, how long is the dry ice? Is it going to last 10 days? And you may find that if you don't open it, it easily lasted 10 days. And, therefore, if you kill a bull on the 9th day, you can pull it out and, open that cooler and throw some meat in there, and it's going to be cooler than just sitting in a cooler with no ice.
Yeah, for sure. And I think just above all, the imperative thing would be to get it to good ice as quick as possible, no matter whatever you got to do in that situation. Something else.
And cut some of those bigger chunks of meat and cut them up where, you don't have those real thick chunks of meat that's not cooling. Cut it into smaller pieces so you can get it, cooled as quick as possible.
Yeah, for sure. And something that we kind of started out talking about this a little bit, but this is going to be, a trophy hunt, right? And I hope to take a bull out that's going to be, shoulder mount worthy. It's going to be kind of difficult to pack out the hide and the antlers and all that. So is there a specific technique you use for doing that? Do you bring the skull out, or do you skull cap them in the backcountry?
I would probably skull cap it if it were me. I would definitely not bring the skull. I would skull cap it. And then the other thing you look at is, you're going to have a cape, and it's going to weigh
a lot.
A lot.
Yeah,
it's going to weigh 30 or 40 pounds. So you may say, well, geez, I can, elk capes are very readily available. Do you want a mount that's not your cape? That's one question.
Yeah.
The other question is, maybe you go into it and say, unless it's certain size, I'm just going to skull cap it and I'm not going to bring the cape out. But the more I think about it, I really think you guys ought to have someone that is available on the inReach or on the sat phone, and that will be able to come in with horses and get that elk out, especially if you want to mount it for the meat's sake and the cape's sake. Have someone that, and there's got to be outfitters there and guys with horses that for a certain fee, they'll come right in and grab whatever you need. I would you guys are biting off a lot, to go in there, just the two of you. So I would definitely consider, just skull capping it and, not bringing out the cape would be maybe what I would think, and buying a cape, if you're, you're going to have, well, a lot of it depends on how close you are to your vehicle.
Yes, for sure.
If you're 2 or 3 miles, then yeah, you can get every bit of it out, no problem, with a handful of trips. If you get, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 miles away, it's gonna be a chore for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And that's really the purchasing a cape is something I haven't thought about. There is a little bit of it's like, man, are you losing some of the mojo or something if you do that? But practicality is king in this situation. What's going to make the most sense?
Yeah, and I mean the key is to get the meat out first and foremost. For sure. And those capes, the challenge that we all deal with in the Southwest, especially Arizona and New Mexico, is the temperatures. Mm-hmm. And stuff can spoil very, very quickly. Mm-hmm. So I would probably, if it were me and I had that tag, I would have someone with horses or mules on standby, ready to go when you shoot them coordinates, and know that they can be there, within 5 or 6 hours. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And have everything ready, have everything in bags, everything hung up, everything cooling, so that they just come in, they grab it. And I think there's strings of horses and mules kind of going in and out of that unit all the time. Mm-hmm. So I would definitely make arrangements ahead of time to have someone that says, yep, you kill it, you give me the coordinates, I'll be there.
Yeah. That's definitely one of the options for sure. And I think that I'm going to be kind of where you were saying, where I'm not going to tell them yes for sure, but I've talked to a couple people and they said, yeah, if you're pretty far back, then we'll come. If you think you're close enough for the truck to pack it out, no big deal, kind of thing. So it's kind of nice that they give you that option. All right, Jay, so you've killed your big bull in the Healy unit, and got it packed out. You actually had to do it yourself, so you're real tired, you and your friends. What are you going to sit down to a plate of to recover from all that hard, strenuous pack out?
Me, I'm going to go find a double chubby cheeseburger somewhere.
That's what I'm talking about.
Man,
yes.
There's nothing like the greasy cheeseburger after leaving the mountain. I don't know what it is.
You're talking to a hamburger and fry lover, so I mean, anything that I could find, either that or Mexican food, and there's such a kick right now, and it's been going on with people eating all kinds of crazy healthy stuff, and that's phenomenal, and they'll probably live twice as long as I will. But I there's nothing to me like a big old chubby cheeseburger, maybe with some green chilies and a big old plate of fries.
Ooh.
And the only thing that gets me by and allows me to keep hunting like I do is, in Colorado for the whole summer, I try and hike every day, and I do in Arizona when I'm home. A lot of great trails around the Scottsdale, Phoenix area, but I try and exercise as much as I can, and I eat like a pig.
Yeah, Tyler and I say that all the time. Like, we don't work out so that we'll be healthy. We just work out so that we don't get super big and can still go hunt. That's the whole thing. It's not about being healthy for it, but
yeah, if I wasn't married to my wife, I'd weigh 600 pounds, and she cooks really, really good, healthy meals. Now, she is the opposite. She does eat like a bird, and she obviously looks like it. She has no body fat. But I'm just a blue-blooded American that loves cheeseburgers. So, yeah.
I hear you, man. I'm right there with you. I would imagine that there's going to be multiple cheeseburger and Mexican food stops on the way home from western New Mexico. So
yeah, I mean, you're in the heart of Mexican food for sure.
Oh, yeah. And what's cool is it's green chili country, which, we love our jalapenos here in Texas, but man, green chilies, I'm not saying they're better, but man, it's a good change. Yep. They're tasty for sure.
Yeah.
Jay, we could probably ask you questions until September 14th, but I guess we're kind of running kind of long here, and I really appreciate your time. And I know that most of the questions we have can be answered over on your podcast. So where can we direct our listeners to listen to more of this?
Oh, I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys having me on. If anybody wants to kind of follow along, they can on my Instagram. It's at JScottOutdoors. And then if you're into podcasts, obviously you're listening to this one, you can just type in iTunes or anywhere you find podcasts, J. Scott Outdoors, Western Big Game Hunting and Fishing Podcast, or just J. Scott Podcast usually pulls it up. And yeah, guys, you guys have a great adventure coming up, and I can tell you're super excited about it. So I'm anxious to watch how everything goes, and I hope you guys will send me some success photos. And I hear those bulls in the wilderness there can bugle good, and the calling can be phenomenal. And you guys have the second hunt, which I think is better. And so I think you're going to have some really good encounters. I think you're going to have some good bugling. Those New Mexico bulls are a little bit finicky compared to some of the other states, especially Arizona. So, if they're bugling really good, the only advice I'd give you is, maybe call less and sneak a little bit more, and you should do really, really well.
Yeah, that's awesome, Jay. Thanks so much for the hot fist there. Now we can't really handle ourselves, so. But we're excited, man. You're right, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the well wishes, and good luck to you this season too, man. Your new endeavor sounds super cool and like kind of a dream for a lot of people to be able to manage their own elk ranch. So that's pretty awesome, dude. Thanks so much for the time, Jay. We really appreciate it.
All right, buddy. When you go to shoot to kill, okay?
All right, we will. Thanks, man.
All right, take care.
Man, that was some killer info. If you found this interview helpful, be sure and leave us a review below and comment what you thought was the most helpful tip from this episode.
For sure. Make sure you also follow us on our social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram, and also subscribe on YouTube so you can see how these hunts turn out.
Remember, this is your element.
Live in it. Been waiting my whole life for that.
The new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook Wild Game Recipes for the Grill, Smoker, Campfire, and Camp Stove is out on April 24th and is available for pre-order now. Here is your book for everything that's best cooked or eaten outside. From grilling to open fire cooking to Dutch ovens to smokers to barbecue to backpacking meals to how to pull off the perfect fish fry, with pit stops along the way for lessons about Ice Age cooking methods and the best 5 ways to construct a cooking fire you can be proud of. And of course, we're focusing on wild game and fish here with over 100 recipes, including stuffed venison burgers 3 ways, wild duck with ahi verde sauce, a jerky made with cola, a gin and tonic made with fire-charred lemons, and grilled frog legs made with a sticky sweet sauce. This ain't your normal cookbook, so be prepared to be surprised. Pre-order your copy now. For more info, visit themeateater.com.